Land investing has changed, and if you're still doing it the old way, or you tried it a few years ago and it didn't work, you're likely using the wrong model. I want to go over in this video what the old model was and how it shifted to a new model, and if you're currently struggling running a land business, I would imagine you're using that old model. I used to run the old model, we have shifted to this new model in land, and the people that are getting left behind have not evolved their business to what's working now. Now before I break down both models, I want to tell you guys something that surprises most people when they hear it. The new way of doing land is actually harder in specific areas than the old way of doing it. But here's the thing, that one area that's harder actually makes everything else easier in your business. And once you understand why, the entire business starts to make a little more sense. So let's start from the beginning. When I first got into land investing, the model was simple. It was almost too easy to get started. You would go and market to desert parcels in rural parts across the country. Think rural New Mexico, rural Arizona, rural Colorado, rural Nevada, and you buy these tiny desert parcels for as cheap as you possibly can. $500, a couple $100 a parcel. If you were really risky, you're buying lots for $1,000 or $2,000 a parcel. And it was easy. You would have sellers selling you portfolios of properties. We were picking up 10 to 15 lots at any given time from one mailer. The deal flow was there. The problem was selling the properties. In the old model, it was really difficult to sell your properties. You would list them on Facebook, land.com, LandWatch, Land of America, Craigslist. We were using OfferUp. We would do anything we could to try and sell our lots because it was so incredibly easy to get them, but it was so difficult to sell them. And when you're selling these cheaper properties, let's say for a few $1,000s, putting them on the MLS or Redfin, Zillow, Realtor.com, buyers aren't really looking there. So we have to sell it elsewhere. We have to go and find the buyers rather than the buyers finding us. So we're using sites like Facebook, Craigslist, OfferUp, Land.com, and we're just looking for buyers all across the country. And if you were lucky, you'd find somebody across the country who just wanted to be a landowner in America, and they would put $1 down or $100 down, and they'd pay you on owner finance for the next 7, 8, 9 years, which was a decent model when we started, but we learned really quickly that you run out of capital fast. Because if you're buying 10, 15 properties at a time and you're only selling them for $1 or $50 down, you run out of money quick. So the old model was easy to get deals, hard to sell them. And that model worked for a while. And the margins were great on these cheaper deals when you could sell them, but it was difficult to sell them. And as the market evolved, our business had to as well. Here's what happened to land over the last few years. More and more people got into the space. They were marketing to those desert parcels. So the buyers were flooded with a ton of new inventory. So our Facebook leads or our Craigslist leads or OfferUp leads, they had so much to pick from. So it was more difficult for us to sell. And it was more difficult for us to pick up the portfolio of properties, 10 to 15 properties at a time, because now there's hundreds of new people marketing to these desert parcels. Well, now the seller could go and work with John, Sally, Sue, or myself. It was very difficult to get those large portfolio of properties. So the problem was twofold. It was becoming difficult to get the large portfolio, and it was becoming difficult to sell them. So the investors that stayed in the business had to make a choice. We either start getting squeezed on both sides of the deal, or we evolve our business into what was working. And the ones who evolved figured something out, and it changed everything. Now, the new model looks like this. Rather than going after deals that are easy to buy, difficult to sell, we go after deals with built-in equity that are a little bit more difficult to find, but much easier to sell. Now let me break down exactly what I mean. If I find a piece of land that's worth $60,000 and I buy it for $30,000, I have $30,000 of equity built into the deal. So I can go and list that property on the market and be the cheapest one on Redfin, Zillow, or the MLS, and I can undercut everybody else and still have a ton of built-in equity into the deal. So now the difficult part is not selling the property. It's easy to sell a property, but it is difficult to get a deal that's worth $60,000 and we get it for $30,000. So the new model was a little bit more difficult to get a deal, but a lot easier to sell a deal. Now, everybody asks about competition in this space, and as more people come into the land space, is it difficult to get a deal? Yes and no. So if we look at the old model, and we're gonna talk about just numbers for direct mail for a second, it used to take us about 2,500 letters per deal. Well, now we're closer to 4,000 letters per deal. However, in the old model, our margins were much slimmer, And there was a lot less people in the space, and it was very difficult to sell a property. Where now in the new model, it takes us more mailers to get a deal, 4,000 mailers to get a deal, but every deal we get, our margins are much greater. Our average margin in our land business now is $20,000. When I started it, it was just a couple $1,000s. So though it is more mailers per deal now, our margins are much larger, and it's so much easier to sell a property. So before, if it took me 2,500 mailers to get a deal, or maybe even a couple deals, it was very difficult to sell those properties. Where now, 4,000 mailers for one deal, and I can sell those properties in a week because I'm able to undercut everybody else, and I've built in equity into the deal. More mail to get a deal, bigger margins per deal, and easier to sell. That's the new model. So what does this mean for you if you're starting a land business today? Well, the fundamentals are still the same. We're still sending out marketing material, but it does require slightly more marketing material than it used to. But our margins are greater, and it's significantly easier once we get those properties. Now, what's changed is the execution. The days of deals falling into your lap, or you sending out 2,000 mailers and getting a few deals, are no longer here. It does require consistent mailing. It does require follow-ups. It does require speed to lead. The days of the low-hanging fruit are somewhat gone. Now, they still happen, but we can't rely on it. So if we're building a land business today, we have to make sure that our phone skills are really good. Our communication skills with sellers are great. Our speed to lead is top tier. We have to be good in all these categories, or they'll just go to the next land investor. Because again, they don't know me from the 10 other people that are sending them mailers. So what does matter is, how quickly can I call them back? Am I able to have a conversation with them on the phone? And we're able to build a little rapport. That's who sellers want to work with. Sellers want to work with people they like. So you have to be that person. And in the new way of land investing, it's much more difficult to go get those bulk properties, those low-hanging fruit, the ones that would just fall into your lap. You do have to work a little bit harder to get those deals. And lastly, market selection matters much more now than it did before. Again, we were buying lots in rural New Mexico for $100, $200 a piece. If we want to go and find deals where we know buyers are coming and we know we have built-in equity, it's a fine line that we have to walk when we're looking for these deals. So we want to look for areas outside major metropolitan areas, outside areas like Dallas or Houston or San Antonio or Denver or Raleigh, North Carolina. We want to work outside major cities because the prices are a little bit cheaper, we know buyers are coming there, and we've built in equity into these deals. So market selection is much more important now than it was years ago. Now, this business is going to continue shifting. It has shifted from the last few years to now. It's going to continue shifting in the next few years. And every time, if we can evolve our business to what is currently working, it gets more profitable every time we do it, because the investors that can't keep up fall off and fail. Now, if you've tried land investing, or you're currently land investing and your business is not working, you're likely falling into that old model too much. Whether your market research is bad, your speed to lead or your phone skills are bad, maybe you're going after the wrong types of property, you're likely failing for those reasons. So you just need to shift your new model into what's currently working. Again, I've been doing this business for over 6 years. I've made the transition from the old model to the new model. And what my day-to-day or my month-to-month looks like has changed significantly. In income, how many deals we're closing, the amount of time it takes to close a deal with each seller, everything has changed over the years. And your business needs to too. Again, if you're falling behind, you need to evolve with the market and switch to this new model of land investing. Now, if you want to learn exactly how this model works, the negotiations, the market selection, talking with sellers, talking with realtors, everything about the land business, head on over to landflippingsimplified.com. You can book a call with either myself or somebody from my team. We'll walk you through everything there is to know in this business, and you can decide if it's a right fit for you. And if this video helped you out at all as to what the current land model looks like in 2026, feel free to drop a like, comment, subscribe. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next video.